The outer ring of Horizon Station wasn't the safest place after midnight. Caleb Forrester knew this, but as head engineer of the orbital platform, he often found himself traversing its shadowy corridors during odd hours. The rhythm of his boots against metal plating echoed through the dimly lit passage as he mentally cataloged the repairs needed for tomorrow's shift. A crash from an adjacent maintenance tunnel interrupted his thoughts. Caleb paused, his hand instinctively reaching for the multi-tool at his belt. Most likely another coolant pipe buckling under pressure. It happened all too frequently in this aging section of the station. "Hello," he called out, directing his flashlight into the darkness. "Anyone there?" "This area's restricted." The beam caught a flash of iridescent skin, almost pearlescent in the light, before whatever, or whoever, it was retreated deeper into the shadows. "I can see you," Caleb said more softly, switching to the gentler tone he used when coaxing reluctant apprentices. "I'm not security. If you're hurt, I can help." A hiss emanated from the darkness, followed by words in a language his translator implant couldn't decipher. The voice, though alien, was unmistakably feminine. "Your translator's outdated," came the eventual response in heavily accented standard. "Typical human technology. Primitive and unreliable." Caleb raised an eyebrow. "Well, this primitive human is offering help. Take it or leave it." A figure emerged cautiously from the shadows, and Caleb's breath caught in his throat. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin had a subtle lavender tint that shifted with iridescent patterns when she moved. Delicate, fin-like structures adorned the sides of her face where human ears would be, and her eyes, large, almond-shaped, and entirely solid silver, regarded him with suspicion. Her clothing was practical but strange, a tight-fitting bodysuit that appeared to be made from some kind of living material that rippled occasionally, as if breathing. It was torn in several places, revealing more of that unusual skin beneath. "I don't need your help," she said, though she was clearly favoring her right leg. "I need to stay hidden." "From who?" "From whom?" she corrected automatically, then looked annoyed at herself. "It doesn't concern you." Caleb sighed. "Look, I don't care if you're a stowaway. But if you're injured and wandering around in restricted areas, that does become my problem. Especially when those areas handle atmospheric regulation for half the station." The alien woman seemed to evaluate him, those silver eyes unblinking. "I require shelter and medical supplies. Temporary only. Then I'll be gone. That's it. No explanation of how you got here, or who you're running from. Would you believe me if I told you?" A bitter smile curved her lips, revealing teeth that were just a bit too sharp to be human. Against his better judgment, Caleb found himself intrigued. It had been 3 years since he transferred to Horizon Station, 3 years of routine maintenance and predictable problems. The woman before him was anything but predictable. "I'm Caleb Forrester, head engineer of Horizon Station," he said, offering a respectful nod rather than a hand. He'd learned that lesson with the Centaurian ambassador last year. She hesitated, then replied, "You may call me Vexera." "Just Vexera. No family name or clan designation. Just Vexera," she repeated firmly. Then she winced, her weight shifting as she nearly lost balance. Without thinking, Caleb moved to steady her, his hand catching her elbow. Her skin was warm, warmer than human, and felt like smooth suede beneath his fingers. She tensed but didn't pull away. "My quarters aren't far," he said. "Private entrance, no security scans. I have a med kit there." "Why would you help me?" Suspicion laced her voice. Caleb shrugged. "Maybe I'm tired of fixing the same broken pipes every day. Or maybe I just don't like seeing anyone hurt, even rude aliens with attitude problems." For the first time, a genuine smile flickered across Vexera's face. Brief, but transformative. "You're either very kind or very foolish, Caleb Forrester. Been called worse. Can you walk?" "I've survived the collapse of a wormhole gateway. I can manage a short walk." As they made their way through the station's less-traveled corridors, Caleb couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just veered wildly off course. And somehow, despite the obvious complications this mysterious woman would bring, he wasn't entirely unhappy about it. Little did he know that the vagrant he was helping would soon wear a crown that commanded the loyalty of 12 star systems, or that his simple act of kindness would forever alter the course of interstellar politics and his heart. 3 weeks had passed since Caleb had found Vexera in that maintenance tunnel, and his life had become decidedly more complicated. His spare bedroom now housed an alien fugitive whose habits alternated between fascinating and infuriating. "This nutritional paste is revolting," Vexera declared, pushing away the station-standard ration packet Caleb had offered. "How do humans survive consuming such bland substances?" Caleb leaned against the kitchen counter, amused to spite himself. "Most of us supplement with actual food when we can afford it. Station rations are just emergency basics." She stopped herself abruptly, then continued more carefully. "Where I come from, even the simplest meals contain at least 7 distinct flavor profiles." These slip-ups happened often, moments when her careful facade cracked, revealing glimpses of a past far more privileged than the refugee status she claimed. Caleb had noticed, but never pressed. Everyone on Horizon Station had secrets. It was practically a requirement for residency. "Well, Your Highness," he teased without knowing how close to the truth he was striking. "Tomorrow's my day off. I'll take you to the agricultural ring. They grow actual fruits and vegetables there." The look of genuine excitement that crossed her face made something in his chest tighten uncomfortably. Later that evening, as Caleb repaired a faulty circuit board at his workbench, Vexera watched with unexpected interest. "Your technical abilities are impressive," she admitted reluctantly. "On my world, such work would be done by automated systems. Sometimes the human touch makes all the difference," he replied, not looking up from the delicate work. "Machines follow programming. People can improvise." "Is that why you became an engineer? To improvise?" Caleb's hand stilled momentarily. "I became an engineer because of the Ceres colony disaster. My parents and sister were among the casualties." Vexera's silver eyes widened. "The atmospheric failure. That was 15 Earth years ago." 16 next month, he corrected quietly. "I was 17, staying with my uncle on Earth when it happened. Afterward, I swore I'd make sure life support systems never failed like that again." The silence stretched between them until he felt a warm hand cover his. Looking up in surprise, he found Vexera closer than she'd ever voluntarily been, her expression unguarded for the first time. "In my language," she said softly, "we have a word. Niveleth. It means one who creates safety from tragedy. It is considered the highest calling." Something passed between them in that moment, a bridge forming across the vast differences of their species and backgrounds. When her fingers interlaced with his, Caleb found himself unable to pull away, despite knowing how complicated this could become. That night, as a meteor shower painted streaks of light across the station's observation dome, they stood side by side, shoulders touching. When Vexera's head eventually came to rest against him, Caleb cautiously put his arm around her shoulders and was rewarded with a contented sigh that sounded almost like home. "Tell me about your stars," she whispered, and he did, never suspecting that she knew far more about them than he ever could, that some of those distant pinpricks of light were worlds she had once helped rule. The explosion rocked the entire residential sector of Horizon Station. Emergency sirens wailed as Caleb raced through smoke-filled corridors toward his quarters, dread building with each step. "Vexera," he shouted, overriding his door lock with his emergency codes. The apartment was in shambles. Furniture overturned, walls scorched by what looked like energy weapon fire. In the center of the destruction stood Vexera, clutching a small device that pulsed with blue light. Her bodysuit had reconfigured itself into something more protective, and the meek refugee demeanor had vanished completely. "They found me," she stated, her voice carrying a commanding tone he'd never heard before. "We need to leave immediately." What's happening? Who's they? Caleb demanded, grabbing his emergency pack from a wall compartment. Despite his confusion, years of station crisis drills had him automatically preparing for evacuation. Imperial hunters, she replied tersely. Elite assassins sent by the usurper who stole my throne. Caleb froze. Your throne. Vexera's silver eyes met his with a mixture of defiance and regret. I am Vexera Clarison, sovereign designate of the Ardelian Convergence, ruler of 12 systems in what you call the Sickness Arm. The realization struck Caleb like a physical blow. You're not a refugee. You're royalty. Both, actually, she said with grim humor. I was betrayed by my chancellor during a diplomatic mission. My escort was killed. I barely escaped with my life and have been hiding ever since, gathering intelligence and seeking allies. Before Caleb could process this revelation, the apartment door exploded inward. A figure in gleaming obsidian armor stepped through the smoke, a weapon raised. Without hesitation, Vexera pushed Caleb aside and activated the device in her hand. A shield of shimmering energy erupted between them and the attacker. My personal shuttle is in docking bay 7. Caleb shouted over the sound of energy blasts impacting the shield. We can reach it through the maintenance tunnels. For a heartbeat, their eyes locked, his filled with questions, hers with apologies unspoken. Then she nodded, and together they fled through the emergency access panel in his bedroom wall. Hours later, as his shuttle broke free from Horizon Station's gravity well, Caleb finally had time to confront the reality of his situation. He had just become a fugitive alongside an alien queen, leaving behind everything he'd built over the past 3 years. I never meant to involve you in this, Vexera said quietly from the co-pilot's seat. I planned to leave once I was healed. But you stayed, Caleb observed, setting the autopilot coordinates for a remote trading outpost. Why? The silence stretched so long, he thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. Because for the first time since I lost my throne, I felt something other than fear and rage. With you, I remembered how to laugh, how to hope. Caleb reached across the space between them and took her hand. I'm still angry about the deception, he admitted, but we'll figure this out together. As the stars streaked past the view screen, Vexera's fingers tightened around his, a silent promise that whatever came next, neither would face it alone. The resistance base on Paraxis IV wasn't much to look at, a collection of prefabricated structures buried beneath the surface of an otherwise unremarkable moon. But to Vexera, Caleb realized, it represented hope. Your sovereignty, greeted a tall Ardelian male, dropping to one knee as they entered the command center. The Loyalists rejoin in your safe return. Watching Vexera transform fully into her royal persona was fascinating. Gone was any trace of the sharp-tongued refugee he'd rescued. In her place stood a ruler, poised, commanding, and utterly captivating. Rise, Commander Thax, she ordered. Report on our forces. As she was drawn into tactical discussions, Caleb found himself adrift. A human engineer far from home, suddenly thrust into an alien resistance movement. Several Ardelians regarded him with undisguised curiosity or suspicion. That night, in the small quarters they'd been assigned, Vexera found him studying a star chart of her home systems. Do you regret coming with me? She asked, her royal demeanor softening. Caleb considered the question carefully. I regret not knowing the full story sooner. But no, I don't regret helping you. I don't regret us. The last word hung between them, laden with everything they hadn't yet defined. Vexera moved closer, her fin-like oral structures flushing a deeper purple, a physiological response he'd come to recognize as emotional intensity. In Ardelian society, she explained, rulers are expected to mate strategically, forming alliances through biological bonds. Love is considered a distraction. And what do you consider it? Caleb asked, heart pounding. Instead of answering with words, Vexera closed the distance between them. Their first kiss was tentative, exploratory, two species finding common ground in desire. Their second was anything but hesitant. Later, as they lay entwined in the darkness, her skin luminescent against his, Caleb traced the intricate patterns that flowed across her body like liquid starlight. "These markings," he murmured, "they're beautiful. They tell the story of my lineage," she explained, guiding his fingers along a particularly complex spiral near her heart. 27 generations of rulers. I would have been the 28th. "Will be," he corrected. "We'll make it happen." Her silver eyes studied him with wonder. "How can you have such faith? Your life has been upended because of me." Caleb smiled, pressing his lips to her shoulder. "My life began because of you. Everything before was just preparation." As dawn approached, bringing with it final battle preparations, they clung to each other with increasing urgency. Two souls from different worlds creating their own universe within the confines of their shared bed. "If we succeed," Vexera whispered against his chest, "everything changes. There hasn't been a human in the royal court in all our history." "I'm adaptable," Caleb replied, though anxiety twisted in his gut at the thought of navigating alien politics and traditions. Her expression turned serious. "My people may not accept you. Do you accept me?" "With everything I am," she answered without hesitation. "Then we'll figure out the rest together," he promised, sealing his words with a kiss that carried all the certainty his future lacked. The throne room of the Ardelian royal palace soared overhead, crystal spires capturing and refracting sunlight into dazzling patterns across the assembled dignitaries. 3 months had passed since the successful coup that had returned Vexera to power. 3 months of political consolidation, diplomatic negotiations, and cultural adjustments for Caleb. "The sovereign approaches," announced the royal herald, as massive doors swung open. Vexera entered in full ceremonial regalia, her bodysuit replaced by flowing robes of living material that shifted colors with each step. Atop her head sat the crown of convergence, not a traditional crown as humans would recognize, but a delicate lattice of light that hovered just above her brow. As custom dictated, every Ardelian in the vast chamber knelt. Caleb remained standing at the side of the throne dais, his position as yet undefined in the rigid hierarchy of the court. Vexera ascended to her throne, then spoke in the formal tones of royal proclamation. "The convergence has entered a new era," she declared. "Today, we acknowledge that change comes not just from revolution, but from evolution, from embracing that which is different, yet complementary." Her silver eyes found Caleb's across the chamber, and a small smile curved her lips. "For centuries, our laws have decreed that the sovereign must take a mate of pure Ardelian lineage. Today, I decree this law abolished." Murmurs rippled through the assembled courtiers. Caleb felt his pulse quicken as Vexera continued. "In its place, I establish the position of heart consort, one chosen not for political advantage or genetic compatibility, but for the strength they bring to the sovereign spirit." She extended her hand toward him, and the crowd parted as Caleb made his way forward. Standing before her throne, he suddenly felt the weight of historical significance. A human man and an alien queen, rewriting what was possible. "Caleb Forrester of Earth." Vexera's voice softened with emotion. "When I was lost among the stars, you offered shelter without knowing my worth. When you learned my truth, you offered loyalty without seeking reward. And when our worlds collided, you offered love without condition." From within her robes, she produced a small device similar to the shield generator she had used during their escape from Horizon Station. "This contains the technical specifications for atmospheric regulation systems, far beyond current human capability," she explained. "Your first gift is heart consort, the means to prevent another tragedy like the one that claimed your family." Tears pricked at Caleb's eyes as he accepted the device. "Thank you, your sovereignty." "Not your sovereignty," she corrected gently. "Not between us. Never between us." Rising from her throne, Vexera did something unprecedented in Ardelian history. She descended the steps to stand level with him. taking both his hands in hers. The court scribe will record that on this day, the sovereign took a consort according to ancient tradition. She said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. But you and I will know the truth, that a woman who once had everything lost it all, and found something far more precious in the arms of a man who fixes broken things. As their lips met, sealing their union before the assembled elite of 12 star systems, Caleb marveled at the unlikely journey that had brought them to this moment. From a chance encounter in a darkened maintenance tunnel to the heights of alien royalty, their path had been anything but straightforward. Yet as Vexera's arms encircled him, and the court erupted in the Ardelian equivalent of applause, a harmonic humming that resonated through the crystal architecture, Caleb knew with absolute certainty that he was exactly where he belonged. Beside a queen who had once been a refugee, building a bridge between worlds that would endure long after they were gone. For in the vastness of the cosmos, they had discovered the most universal truth of all, that love, whether born on Earth or in the distant reaches of the Cygnus arm, remains the most powerful force in any galaxy.